Let me ask you something, and I want you to be brutally honest. Have you ever sat alone, maybe in your car, maybe on the edge of your bed, and thought to yourself, why do I feel so stuck? You've read the books, you've watched the motivational videos, you've promised yourself, tomorrow, I'll change. But then, nothing sticks, nothing moves, and you begin to wonder, is it me? Am I broken? If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. In fact, you're exactly who this message is for. Two men lose their jobs. One spirals, blames the economy, curses the system, drowns in self-pity. The other wakes up earlier, sharpens his skills, reinvents his future. Same crisis, different reaction. Why? Because it's never the world that breaks you. It's your mind that lets it, and if you let it again and again, it becomes a habit, a quiet surrender. You repeat until you no longer recognize yourself. But here's what the Stoics knew centuries ago. In a world of chaos, distractions, and false promises, the one thing no one can take from you is your inner command. Not your feelings, not society, not your past. You are the one in control. That's why this isn't another feel-good talk. I'm not here to sprinkle soft advice over real pain. This isn't for the guy who wants to be motivated for a day. This is for the one who's tired of living on autopilot, who's sick of being controlled by emotion, regret, and weakness, who's done pretending everything's okay while silently breaking on the inside. You see, fixing your life doesn't begin with a better job, a better body, or a better relationship. It begins with a better mind. Fix your mind, and everything else follows. Not instantly, but undeniably. So if you're here hoping to be gently inspired, this might not be for you. But if you're ready to face some uncomfortable truths, if you're done making excuses and finally want to take back your power, then stay with me. Because what you're about to hear isn't fluff. It's ancient fire, repackaged for modern chaos. These aren't tips. They're tools, forged from the writings of Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca, delivered in the rawest, most practical way possible. And yes, some of them will sting. Some will challenge everything you've told yourself to survive. But that's the point. You don't grow from comfort. You grow from confrontation with the truth, with the mirror, and with your own mind. So before we begin, I want you to ask yourself one question. Am I finally ready to stop blaming the world and start rebuilding myself? If the answer is yes, then let's start where real change begins, inside. This is Stoicism for the modern man. This is how you fix your mind, so you can finally fix your life. Rule 1. Stop negotiating with your weakness. Let's be honest for a second. You say you want to change. You say you're tired of the same patterns, waking up late, skipping the gym, checking your phone before your feet even hit the ground. You say you want discipline, but when that alarm goes off at 6:00 a.m., you hit snooze. Again and again. You negotiate. Just 5 more minutes. I'll start tomorrow. 1 more scroll. 1 more drink. 1 more text to someone I already know is no good for me. Sound familiar? You don't need me to tell you that you're better than that. You already know it. But knowing doesn't make you stronger. Choosing does. Because here's the brutal truth. No one wants to say out loud every time you make an excuse. Weakness wins. And if weakness wins long enough, it stops being a habit. It becomes who you are. Think about this. That strong version of you, the one you keep dreaming about, he's not buried under some deep trauma. He's not locked away in some far-off future. He's here, right now, but he's being suffocated by comfort, by compromise, by the lies you whisper to yourself when things get hard. Marcus Aurelius didn't wake up hoping life would get easier. He woke up ready to meet life with strength. Because he trained for discomfort, he welcomed resistance. Because he knew something most people today have forgotten: there is no peace without discipline, no strong mind without rejecting excuses. The Stoics didn't beg for softer circumstances. They built stronger minds. And that's the invitation in front of you right now. You say you want to fix your life. But here's the first hard question. Can you be trusted when it gets uncomfortable? Not when you're inspired, not when it's convenient, but when you're tired, angry, lonely, rejected. Do you fold or do you rise? Because the man who folds in those moments, that's the version of you that has to die. Not because he's bad, but because he's holding you back from the man you were meant to be. No more deals. No more silent compromises with your lowest self. No more just this one time. It's time to stop asking life to get easier and start becoming the man who gets stronger. From here on out, this is your affirmation. No more deals with weakness. I choose strength. And this isn't just a line to repeat. It's a line in the sand. Now step over it. Rule 2. Control your reactions or be controlled by them. There's a moment, right before you snap, right before you say something you regret, right before you send that angry text, slam that door, or spiral into another long night of overthinking. It's small, quiet, easy to miss, but it's there. And that moment, just a few seconds long, holds a power most people never learn to use, because they don't even know it exists. Let me ask you something. How many times have you let someone else's words ruin your entire day? How many nights have you lost to imaginary arguments that never really happened? How many times have you handed your peace over for free to someone who didn't deserve it? You're not weak, you're human. But the truth is, if you don't learn to control your reactions, your emotions will own you. And worse, you'll be easy to control. Epictetus said it best. It's not things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them. It's not the insult. It's not the traffic jam. It's not your coworker's tone or your girlfriend's silence. It's what your mind does with it that creates chaos. And here's the part no one wants to admit. If you can't control your reactions, you are manipulable, predictable, breakable. All someone has to do is push the right emotional button, and they own you. But imagine this for a second. Someone throws a harsh word your way, and you don't flinch. You pause. You breathe. You respond not from fear, not from ego, but from clarity. That's power. That's mastery. That's Stoicism. And it's not about suppressing your feelings or pretending to be a robot. It's about learning to sit still with the fire and not let it burn you. It's about remembering that you are not your emotions. You are the one who decides what they become. So the next time you feel triggered, you don't need to shout. You don't need to explain. You don't need to react at all. Because silence is a response. Stillness is a weapon, and calm is a form of strength. The world can't figure out how to defeat from this point forward. This is the affirmation I want you to remember. Not just repeat, but live. My peace is mine. I will not hand it over. Not to strangers, not to exes, not to the internet. Your past or your pain, your peace is not up for auction. It's yours to protect, and it begins with a pause. Rule 3, do the hard things. Especially when you don't feel like it. Be honest with yourself. You know what you need to do. You've known for a while now. Wake up earlier. Put down the phone. Cut ties with the people who drain your energy. Say no when you always say yes. Go to the gym. Apologize. Start. Finish. You know. And yet, you don't do it. Not because you're lazy. Not because you're weak. But because you're waiting to feel like it. You're waiting for motivation to strike. For that right moment. For energy. For inspiration. For the stars to align just right. But here's the thing no one wants to say. You might wait forever. The Stoics didn't wait for perfect moods. They didn't ask, do I feel like it today? They trained, especially when it was hard. They woke up in the cold, wrote in silence, marched into battle, showed up for duty. Why? Because they knew something we forget in this modern world full of convenience. Motivation is emotional. Discipline is a decision. And the man who only moves when he feels good won't move very far. You see, most people don't fail because they don't know what to do. They fail because they never build the muscle of doing it anyway. And that muscle, it's built in the quiet hours, in the rain, in the resistance, in the tired eyes and sore limbs, and still showing up. It's forged in those exact moments when your mind says, not today. And you whisper back, watch me. Let me ask you something. What would your life look like right now if you had done the hard things when you didn't feel like it? How different would your body look? Your bank account, your relationships, your peace of mind? Pain is coming. Either way, the pain of doing what's hard or the pain of regretting that you didn't. One builds you, the other breaks you slowly, and you get to choose. So no, you don't need to feel ready. You don't need to feel hyped. You don't need to feel anything at all. You just need to decide. Decide that from now on, you do the work anyway, even if it's hard. Especially when it's hard, because that's where strength is built. That's where you meet the version of you you've been searching for. Not in comfort, not in motivation, but in movement, unemotional, relentless, aligned. This is your new affirmation. I do the work anyway. Not later, not next week. Now, let's go. Rule 4. Cut the noise and master your focus. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you sat in complete silence? No phone, no screen, no music, no background noise, just you and your thoughts. Be honest. Because for most people today, silence isn't peace anymore. It's panic. You say you can't focus. You say your mind feels scattered, tired, overwhelmed. You try to start something, writing, working, reading, and within minutes, you're back on your phone, scrolling, checking, refreshing. Not because the thing you were doing wasn't important, but because it's easier to chase distraction than to sit with your own discomfort. And the worst part, you've convinced yourself you're lazy, but the truth is, you're addicted to noise. Seneca once said, if you are everywhere, you are nowhere. And isn't that exactly what most of us have become? Everywhere, all at once. But nowhere that truly matters. You're halfway in every conversation, half invested in every goal, half alive in your own life. Because your attention, your most valuable resource, is constantly being hijacked by likes, by alerts, by opinions you never asked for, by people who don't know you, shaping who you become. But here's what the Stoics understood long before social media existed. If you don't control your focus, the world will, and it won't give it back to you gently. You'll look up in 5 years and wonder why your goals are still just ideas. why your peace is fragile, why your days feel busy. But your life feels empty, and the answer won't be that you lacked talent, or discipline, or desire. It'll be that you were too distracted to go deep, too scattered to build something meaningful, too addicted to noise to ever hear your own voice. But you can change that. Not overnight, not with hacks or productivity tools, but with intention, with practice, with silence, because focus isn't a mood, it's a muscle. And like any muscle, it grows where your effort goes. So before we move forward, I want you to pause, close the other tabs, silence the notifications, forget who's texting you back or what headline just dropped. This moment is yours. And if you want to take your power back, you start here. You cut the noise, and you take back your mind. This is your affirmation from now on. I control my focus. My attention builds my future. Because in a world that wants you scattered, your focus becomes your rebellion, and your future becomes yours again. Rule 5. Stop seeking approval. There's something exhausting about always needing to be liked. You might not say it out loud, but deep down, you feel it. That anxiety when someone doesn't text back right away. That hesitation to post something real. Because what if it sounds dumb? That urge to explain your every decision, so no one misunderstands you. It's like you're constantly auditioning for a role in a play you never even agreed to be in. And the crazy part, you tell yourself you're doing this for peace, for connection, for kindness, but you're not. You're doing it to be accepted, to be approved, to fit. But here's the brutal truth. The more you try to be liked, the further you drift from who you actually are. Marcus Aurelius saw this thousands of years ago. He wrote, "We love ourselves more than other people, yet care more about their opinions than our own." Think about that. You live in your own mind. You feel your own pain. You walk through every fire in your own skin. And yet, you give more weight to what they think. People who weren't there for your sleepless nights, who didn't see the breakdowns behind your smile, who wouldn't notice if you disappeared tomorrow. Here's the quiet tragedy. Most people don't grow because they're lazy. They stay stuck because they're afraid of being misunderstood. You say you want to get serious about your health, but you're scared your friends will joke about it. You want to cut toxic people, but you're afraid of seeming cold. You want to speak up, but you don't want to rock the boat. So you shrink. You edit yourself. You play it safe. And slowly, without realizing it, you betray your own path just to be welcome on someone else's. But Stoicism teaches something radically freeing. You don't need applause to live with virtue. You don't need agreement to walk with clarity. You don't need anyone's permission to become who you were meant to be. Because when you live by approval, your identity is fragile. But when you live by principle, you become unshakable. So here's what I want you to sit with. What would your life look like if you stopped needing to be liked? What would you say? What would you build? What would you finally walk away from? Because real freedom doesn't come when everyone loves you. It comes when it doesn't matter if they do or not. Your new affirmation begins here. I don't need approval. I choose my path. Say it like you mean it. Not to sound strong, but to finally be free. Rule 6. Silence is power. We live in a world where everyone wants to be heard, where everyone has something to say. All the time. Online. In meetings. At the dinner table. Even in moments that deserve stillness. Someone is filling the silence. But let me ask you something. When was the last time you said nothing, not because you had nothing to say, but because you didn't need to be heard? Most people think power comes from volume, from speaking first, from having the last word, from proving their point, even if it costs them peace. But the Stoics believed the opposite. They knew what modern men often forget. Let silence be your general rule. Epictetus. See, anyone can speak, but it takes strength to stay still, to observe, to listen without reacting, to carry truth that doesn't need to be shouted, to be real. You don't have to raise your voice to prove your worth. You don't have to argue to be right. You don't have to explain yourself to people who aren't listening anyway. In fact, the more you talk, the more you reveal your fears, your insecurities, your need for validation. But when you're silent, you become harder to read, harder to manipulate, harder to provoke. And that's power. Think about it. The man who can stay calm in chaos, who can resist the urge to defend every opinion, who can walk away instead of wasting energy. That man commands attention without saying a word, because people don't fear loudness, they fear what they can't figure out. Let me be real with you. You don't need to justify your goals. You don't need to announce your boundaries. You don't need to convince others that you're serious about your life. You just need to show up, move with purpose, speak when it adds value, and when it doesn't, stay silent and keep building. Let them wonder. Let them misunderstand. Let them talk. You don't need noise to grow. You need focus, stillness, discipline. From this moment forward, this is your affirmation. I will let silence speak for my strength, not because you're weak, but because you finally realized you don't need to say everything, to say something that lasts. Rule 7. Own your mistakes without shame or excuses. There's a moment you probably remember, the one mistake you wish you could erase. Maybe it was a relationship you ruined, a chance you didn't take, a lie you told that cost you something real, a version of you that you're not proud of, but can't seem to let go. And so, you rewrite the memory. You tell yourself, it wasn't that bad. I was young. They didn't understand. And maybe they didn't. But that's not the point. Because deep down, you know the truth. And more than the mistake itself, what's been eating at you is the way you've avoided facing it. Seneca once said, a gem cannot be polished without friction. That friction, it's discomfort, it's confrontation, it's the sting of truth, the kind that humbles you, the kind that breaks your ego just enough to let growth in. But here's what most people don't realize. Shame isn't the price of honesty. Freedom is. You don't have to stay stuck in the loop of self-blame and self-pity. You don't have to carry your mistakes like a secret weight no one else sees. You don't even need to be perfect to be powerful. You just need to be honest. With yourself, without shame, without excuses. Let me tell you the difference between people who grow and people who repeat. It's not intelligence. It's not talent. It's not luck. It's ownership. People who grow take full responsibility for their past, not to beat themselves up, but to build themselves up. They don't pretend. They don't blame. They don't run. They face the fire and walk through it stronger. Think of it this way. Your past already happened. You can't delete it. You can't undo it. But you can decide what role it plays in your story. Will it be the weight that holds you down, or the fire that shapes who you become? You don't need to be ashamed of who you were. You just need to be responsible for who you choose to be now. And that starts with a single sentence. Yes, that was me. And now, arise. No more hiding. No more spinning stories. No more softening the truth. Just radical self-honesty and the quiet strength that follows. Your new affirmation begins. Here, I own my past. And I rise with purpose. Say it without flinching. Because your future doesn't need your perfection. It needs your courage. Rule 8. Discomfort is your teacher. Let's be honest. No one wants pain. No one wakes up hoping for disappointment, heartbreak, or failure. We want peace. We want comfort. We want life to go the way we planned. But life doesn't ask for our permission. One day you lose the job. Another day, the relationship slips through your fingers. Your body breaks down. Your plans fall apart. And suddenly, you're left with nothing but discomfort. And in that moment, it's easy to think, why is this happening to me? What did I do wrong? How do I make this stop? But maybe you're asking the wrong questions. Epictetus wrote, "Don't hope that events will turn out the way you want them to. Welcome events, in whatever way they happen." Why? Because discomfort is not punishment. It's preparation. Pain isn't always the enemy. Sometimes it's the instructor. Sometimes it's the only voice loud enough to wake you up to the lesson you've been avoiding. The modern world has trained us to escape discomfort at all costs. We numb it with dopamine, scroll it away, drink it down, laugh over it, distract ourselves into oblivion. But deep down, it never really leaves, does it? Because what you avoid owns you. What you run from chases you. What you refuse to feel grows in silence. Stoicism teaches something radically different. It tells you to stop running, to sit with your pain, to look discomfort in the eye and ask, what are you trying to teach me? Maybe the rejection wasn't about failure, but about redirection. Maybe the anxiety isn't weakness, but a signal that something inside needs healing. Maybe the hardship isn't proof you're broken, but that you're being forged, like a blade in fire, like a diamond under pressure, like a soul being refined. Let me tell you something real. The strongest people you know, the ones who carry peace like armor, who walk with quiet confidence, who stay calm when everything shakes, they didn't get there by avoiding pain. They got there by making peace with it, by treating discomfort not as a threat but as a teacher. So here's your turning point. Next time life gets hard, don't resist it. Don't numb it. Don't blame it. Pause, breathe, and ask yourself, what is this moment trying to shape in me? Because nothing great is built in comfort, and no deep change happens without struggle. Your new affirmation begins here. Discomfort is my teacher. I no longer run. Say it, not to impress anyone, but to remind yourself. You were never meant to be comfortable. You were meant to grow. Rule 9. Discipline. Motivation. There's a version of you ambitious, focused, unstoppable. But he only shows up when you're in the mood, when the music is right, when the coffee hits just right, when life feels a little less heavy. That version of you gets things done. He plans. He shows up. He feels alive. But the rest of the time, you're tired. You're scrolling. You're making deals with tomorrow. I'll do it when I feel better. Next week will be different. I just need to get motivated again. Sound familiar? Here's the harsh truth. Motivation is a mood. Discipline is a decision. Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." But how many days have you handed your freedom to your feelings? How many opportunities have you missed? Not because you weren't capable, but because you were waiting to feel like it. You see, discipline doesn't care about your mood. It doesn't wait for inspiration. It doesn't need a pump-up speech, a productivity hack, or another Monday reset. Discipline just shows up. That's the real test. Not how hard you can work when you're excited, but what you do when you're not. Can you get up when you feel drained? Can you train when your body's tired? Can you stay kind when you're angry? Can you push forward when there's no applause? Because that's when character is forged. Not in the spotlight, but in the quiet. Boring. Ordinary repetitions that no one claps for. Most people treat discipline like punishment, like it's this cold, rigid prison. But in reality, discipline is freedom. It's the freedom to not be a slave to your emotions, to not get tossed around by every wave of doubt, laziness, or distraction, to not live your life chasing bursts of energy that disappear just as quickly as they come. Here's what they don't teach you in school. Your future won't be built by your most motivated days. It will be built by your most disciplined days. The mornings you didn't hit snooze. The workouts you didn't skip. The hard conversations you didn't avoid. The moments you chose growth over comfort again and again and again. That's what builds legacy. That's what builds you. So here's your turning point. Stop waiting for motivation. Start creating momentum, one disciplined choice at a time. And when it gets hard, when your feelings scream for comfort, remember this: discipline drives me, not emotion. Say it, mean it, live it. Because when your emotions sit in the back seat and your principles take the wheel, that's when your life finally starts to move. Rule 10. Stop living in your head. Align your actions. You think a lot. You reflect. You overanalyze. You read books. Watch videos. Take notes. You journal. You plan. You make vision boards, to-do lists, and intentions. And yet nothing really changes. You know what needs to be done. But when the day ends, you haven't done it. And quietly, that haunts you. You lie in bed and think, why can't I just follow through? Why does it feel like I'm stuck inside my own head? What's wrong with me? But maybe nothing's wrong. Maybe you're just caught in a trap. The illusion that thinking equals becoming. Marcus Aurelius said it plainly: waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. It sounds simple, but it cuts deep, because most of us spend more time arguing with ourselves about who we want to be than actually becoming it. You see, Stoicism isn't a thought experiment. It's not philosophy for the sake of sounding wise. It's not something to post about or discuss over coffee. It's something to live. You're not Stoic because you admire Epictetus. You're Stoic when you respond calmly to insult, when you resist that impulse to lash out, when you show up to your duties even when no one claps. Knowing isn't enough. Thinking isn't enough. Wanting isn't enough. What matters is, do your actions reflect your principles? Do your habits align with your values? Do your days look like your intentions? Because the truth is, you don't rise to the level of your thoughts. You fall to the level of your practice. So let me ask you something uncomfortable. If someone followed you around for a week, would they know what you believe without you saying a word? Would they see discipline? Would they see virtue? Would they see calm, even when life gets loud? Or would they just see potential, a mind full of wisdom, trapped in a body full of avoidance? Real Stoicism doesn't live in your head. It lives in your habits, in your mornings, in how you treat the person who interrupts you, in what you do when you don't feel like doing anything at all. Here's the shift. Stop performing. Start embodying. Stop analyzing. Start aligning. Your affirmation begins here. I will live as the person I claim to be. Not someday. Not when it's easier. Not after you figure it all out. Now, Rule 11. Embrace voluntary discomfort, train your inner strength. Let me ask you a question that most people avoid. When was the last time you were uncomfortable? By choice. Not because life forced your hand, not because the situation turned sour, but because you chose to put yourself somewhere difficult just to see who you really are underneath the surface. You see, comfort is seductive. It whispers that you deserve rest, luxury, ease, and maybe you do. But here's the truth that most won't say out loud. Comfort is the slow poison of the modern world. It doesn't kill your body. It numbs your will. Everything today is designed to soften you. Your food is delivered with a click. Your climate is controlled by a remote. Your entertainment, endless. Your thoughts drowned out by noise. And before you know it, you're not living anymore. You're floating, drifting from dopamine to dopamine, mistaking convenience for peace. But the Stoics knew better. They didn't fear discomfort. They trained for it, set aside a certain number of days. Seneca wrote, during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, saying to yourself the while, is this the condition that I feared? They deliberately stripped away the softness of luxury, not to punish themselves, but to remind their souls what strength feels like. Most people only change when life makes it unbearable to stay the same. They wait for the diagnosis, for the heartbreak, for the bankruptcy, for rock bottom. But a Stoic, he doesn't wait for rock bottom. He lowers himself there voluntarily, not to suffer, but to practice standing strong when the winds of life hit hard. So what does voluntary discomfort look like in your world? It's waking up before the sun when the bed still feels like a warm lie. It's fasting, even when your fridge is full. It's saying the honest thing you've been rehearsing in your head for weeks. It's choosing the hard path on purpose, because you know growth doesn't live in the easy one. This isn't self-punishment. It's not a trend or challenge. It's training. Training your spirit to be unshaken when life gets real, because you've already faced worse. By choice. When you embrace discomfort, you stop fearing it. You stop running. You stop being shocked when life gets hard, because you've already been there. You know what pain feels like, and you know you can survive it. That's why this rule matters. It's not about suffering. It's about sovereignty. Because if you can master your body when it's tired, your mind when it's restless, your mouth when it wants to lie or blame or run, you become unbreakable. Your affirmation begins here. I do not wait for hardship. I choose it to become unbreakable. Now, let's walk through what this looks like practically, personally, and powerfully, so you're not just thinking stoically, but living it. Rule 12. Detach from outcomes, commit to the process. Let me ask you something. What happens when you try your hardest and still don't win? What do you tell yourself when you give everything you have, your time, your energy, your heart, and the outcome doesn't reflect it? Do you feel worthless, invisible, like you failed? If that's you, you're not broken. You've just been conditioned by a world that worships results, followers, fame, metrics, money, all visible, all measurable, and all, ultimately, out of your control. You're taught to believe your value lies in the outcome, that you are what your numbers say you are, that if the world claps, you matter, and if it doesn't, you're falling behind. But what if I told you? The Stoics would call that a dangerous illusion. Here's what Epictetus would say: do not aim to be the best, aim to do your best. The rest is not up to you. Let that sink in. You don't control how your message is received. You don't control the algorithm, the applause, The rejection, even the praise. You only control you. Your input, your effort, your integrity, your intention. You can't force someone to love your work, but you can show up daily with humility and excellence. You can't demand viral growth, but you can commit to the practice. You can't guarantee outcomes, but you can live your process on purpose. And this is where real peace begins. When you stop living for the scoreboard, you start playing the long game. You stop burning out. You stop resenting your craft. You stop questioning your worth every time a number dips or a post flops. You begin to move through life not like a desperate performer waiting for applause, but like a master craftsman, shaping a legacy, brick by brick. So, how does this look in the real world? You go to the gym, not for the mirror, but for the discipline. It teaches your soul. You publish your art, not for views, but for the message that needed to leave your chest. You speak the truth, not for validation, but because silence would betray who you really are. When you detach from the results, you reclaim your freedom. You stop performing. You start becoming. Here's your affirmation. I release outcomes. I master the process, because that's where your power lives. In the habit, in the commitment, in the quiet. Daily decision to show up, especially when no one's watching. Stay with me, because what comes next isn't just Stoic theory. It's a practical roadmap, a new way to think, act, and live in a world obsessed with applause. Let's break it down together. You've heard the rules, but these aren't just rules. They're reminders. A way back to yourself. Not fluffy mantras. Not surface-level motivation. These are truths that break illusions, hard truths that pierce the noise and call you to rise. Because life doesn't wait for you to feel ready. It doesn't soften for your emotions, and it doesn't pause until you believe in yourself. So the question becomes, will you wait or will you act? These Stoic principles are simple, but they are not easy. They demand consistency, honesty, and above all, ownership. No more blaming the algorithm. No more blaming your upbringing. No more pointing fingers at life. Because here's the real secret. Your life isn't broken. Your mind is just untrained. And once you train the mind, once you tame your reactions, once you stop negotiating with weakness, you stop being a victim. You stop getting triggered by things that don't matter. You stop seeking permission to be who you are. You stop waiting for the perfect moment. And instead you become the moment. You begin to live by virtue, not validation, by choice, not emotion, by principle, not popularity. That is where freedom begins. But freedom isn't loud. It's not found in shouting your opinions or proving your point. True freedom is quiet, calm, disciplined. It shows up in how you carry yourself when no one's clapping, when no one's watching, when it's just you and your conscience. Embody. Don't explain. That's the rule that lives beneath all the others. You don't need to talk about how focused you are. Just be focused. You don't need to post about your discipline. Just wake up and train. You don't need to prove your strength. Just stop quitting. If you apply what you've learned here, not just once, not just for a week, but every day, in small, consistent ways, you will become unrecognizable to the old version of you who used to flinch, doubt, and shrink. The one who made excuses, who waited for motivation, who needed approval to feel alive. That person, they don't lead your life anymore. You do. You are the author now. You are the gatekeeper. You are the fire and the calm within it. Let the world keep chasing comfort and applause. You You're building something real, something lasting, something that doesn't crumble when life gets loud and when it gets hard, because it will. Remember this final affirmation: I fix my mind. I fix my life. Say it slowly. Let it land, because you're not here to survive. You're here to lead, with stillness, with discipline, with quiet strength. Now go live it, quietly, powerfully, completely, because you don't need to explain yourself. You just need to become it.